Hello, I'm Sean Empire, and welcome to Better Assholes. It is a whole bunch of fun, just stuff going on coming out of the US. It's just been, I don't know, with Trump taking office, being elected again to become the US president, it's actually a goldmine of comedy. This is actually good stuff. I actually enjoy having Trump in power just for the sake of having to read all these news articles every day and Twitter and whatever that's just interesting, just out there, right? So, I mean, you can't get better than this. So, a few days ago, we were talking about, Trump's meeting with Trudeau and, a few things that were exchanged, primarily, you know, Trump really not liking Trudeau and believing Canada should be a US state and Trudeau could be a governor. And so we all had some jokes about that. It was a nice setup for taking some digs at the prime minister. Everybody enjoyed it. And, you just figure, okay, it's a one off little bit of comedy. Trump's just, doing his thing, trolling a bit. But then it's come up a few other times. And then you question, right? And it was just recently, I think yesterday, where he came out and he said, well, Canada would make a great first state. And, so Trump's mentioned subsidizing Canada to over, $100 million a year, and how Canadians would save on taxes and military protection. So, I mean, yeah, it does make sense. It's funny because I think, to be honest, if you look at born Canadians that have, been born here, maybe not, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, Gen whatever, we're talking, if you look at a lot of those, you know, diehard Canadians, like the boomers Canadians, and maybe some of the Gen Z. I think mostly the boomers and the generation before the boomers. Those guys are probably just grief stricken by this news. They don't want to become part of the US. I think some of our newer, new immigrants, refugees, they're probably dying to become a 51st state because the reason that they're in Canada, a lot of people are as a transit point to get into the States. So you have a lot of people, especially when you come from places like India, a lot of those people, the Middle East, they actually come here hoping to use their passports and their new Canadian citizenship to go and move over to the States, right? To make it easy. It's not that easy though. So you have that, bunch of people that be moving or willing to move. I think you have a good portion of liberals, and there's a lot of in Canada, a lot of, I guess, Gen X, millennial liberals, a lot of millennial liberals, especially. So I think you have a good portion of people that are for moving or for becoming a state, and you have, mostly liberals, a small minority of liberals that are really die hard on, hey, we're Canada, we do things the Canadian way. On the conservative side of things, I think the patriotism for Canada has left. There was a time where, it was something where you would hear often, people, Canadian patriot, diehard Canadian, Canadian soldier, Canadian this, Canadian that. And that was definitely the previous government. With Trudeau here, you can notice that nobody really cares about that, becoming a Canadian patriot, right? And the problem with that is just basically there's nothing to be proud of, right? We've managed with Trudeau in power. Canada has lost its housing market. It's become a joke, right? You can't get a house, you can't rent, you can't buy. The education system is getting bad. Well, worse than it was before, with a government so gung ho on climate change. It's crazy that most of these schools don't have air conditioning in them. They have poor heating systems. It's a horrible, horrible place to be in a school here. a lot of old schools. You actually hear about them tearing down schools because they're old, not replacing them. So then you have double the amount of students at one school, which was the newer of, a bunch of schools in a local neighborhood. So, I mean, it's getting worse. Would we save on taxes? Yeah. Military protection. Yeah. I think what the US would do if it was to annex Canada, I mean, it would take advantage of natural resources. You'd have a lot of rebalancing of population. So you'd have a lot of, I'm sure you'd have a lot of Canadians heading south, a lot of Americans heading north, and, that would be beneficial. I I can't even, and usually I'm able to, quickly come up with some good good ideas or, something good to say about this, but I can't really think of a downside. I can't It's hard to think of a downside to become the US, part of the US. In Canada, a selling feature was the fact that Canada was a peaceful place. It was, peaceful, multicultural, very, a very kind place, environmental place, a nice place, all these words that you no longer hear. There was a time where you would actually say, boy, you'd turn on the news and you'd hear about New York and people stabbed in New York today. You'd say, oh shit, wow, I'm glad I live here. There's been one stabbing in a whole year. And now you're looking at the US and you're saying, wow, aside from some problematic areas, I mean, the violence here is getting worse. Per capita, it's worse. In Canada, when people don't have money, what happens? They resort to robbery, theft, stuff like that. This is what you're seeing now. So you're seeing break-ins, cars being stolen, carjackings, swarmings at malls, people breaking into jewelry stores, swarming at stealing everything, running out. You're getting into that. The cops don't care. The cops are telling you, listen, give them what they want, curl up in a ball, and the problem will go away. They're telling you to give the carjackers your keys. They're telling you to give the robbers that come into your house, give them all your stuff, give them your car keys, give them your jewelry, lock yourself in the bathroom, and let them go. This is what they're telling you now. This is sad. We're a sad place, right? Oh, I think at this point, becoming a part of the US is a good idea. Will it happen? No, that's never going to happen. It would have to be so many. Every Canadian would have to vote. The government would have to be for it. They would spend years and years and years trying to come up with agreements and paperwork, and settlements, and blah, 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 blah. And then you have the whole native people. I don't even know what you're going to tell them. Hey, guys, sorry, we're going to fuck you again. Sorry, guys, we're become part of the States. It's not going to happen. I think at this point, as much as it seems like an interesting idea to become part of the US, which I'll tell you straight off the bat, we'd become part of the US, and the first thing I'm going to do is sell my house and move to Florida or somewhere else hot. That's it. And I think most Canadians are thinking the same thing. So it's a good idea. And the only bad part, and this is what is going to make the States really, really, really think about it, is the fact that we just have so many refugees and illegal immigrants and scam artists on international student visas that it makes no sense to do anything like that, because we're not going to benefit from having all these people, having millions of people become US citizens out of Canada or become allowed to move into the US that are not even supposed to be here. And that's the biggest problem. And that's what's going to really, 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 at the end of the day, make this a no-go. But aside from that, just being a completely independent, sovereign country in 2024 going to 2025, nobody's going to join the US like that and just become annexed. We'd have to go to war and la 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 la. Nobody's going to war. We got too many things going on. So that's it. Anyways, hey guys, if you are a better asshole, to keep listening to better assholes, we could all be better assholes together. And until next time, stay better assholes.